What's up again, YouTube? Hope everybody is having a good day. And again, this video is about the war that we're in and the war strategies that's being and been used against us. But I want to talk about something that's very sensitive with a lot of people. But I think that dialogue from time to time is a good thing. And even the prophet that a lot of people believe that existed said that whenever you hear people gathered in my name, remember that? Okay, I don't remember what verse, what chapter, but that's what I'm doing right now, gathering. Okay, let's get into this religious stuff. Little background. I was born Christian. Grew up Christian. My mother was Christian. I never met my grandmother, but I'm quite sure she was Christian. I know for a fact that my great-grandmother was a slave. And I'm quite sure she wasn't a Christian. But anyway, my mother used to drag all her children to church. And we'd sit up and we'd sing and we'd pray. And we'd commune. And we'd socialize with other Christians, no matter what ethnicity. All of us would gather on Sunday and read the gospel and worship. Okay. At a very young age of 10, I used to question my mother. And back in 1968, 69, 67, you didn't question. And the further you go back, the less your parents would teach you or scold you about questioning God. I wasn't introduced to Islam until around 1972 or 3. So all I knew was Christianity. I heard of Buddhism, which is technically not a religion. It's practice of a spirituality, but that was unheard of to me in my family back in 1960, in the late 60s, mid 60s, up until say 1973, me. I'm the sixth born out of 10 of us. And I'm the only one that has done the most traveling in my family. I'm the only one who thinks like I think in my family. The other siblings of mine, we don't agree on a lot of things, and that's okay. We don't fight about it, we just don't agree about a lot of things. It doesn't matter to them whether it's logical, whether it's common sense. It's just that that's not their destiny, and it's not time for them to comprehend what I talk about. And thank goodness that life don't go backwards. Life always goes forwards towards perfection. Okay? So, me being the one of the ones in the family that like to travel, I've gathered a lot of information during my travels. And I don't mean just physical travel, I mean mental travel, spiritual travel. Okay, so right now I want to talk about Christianity and Islam. Maybe I'll throw something about Buddhism and Zen, but it's mainly Christianity and Islam. And like I mentioned in some of my other videos, this is mostly for the African American or the African, Native African. If you refer to yourself as African, that's okay too if you're African American. Nubian. Now, when I was younger, like I said, 10, I used to question my mother about Christianity. Mom, if God loves everybody, why do I only see pictures of a European Jesus? She slapped me upside my head and tell me not to question God. Okay, so a lot of us now know why a white Jesus or a European Jesus is always portrayed. It's to brainwash non-whites and to brainwash ignorant whites or ignorant Europeans into thinking that this man was European. It's to keep Europeans at the top of the food chain. Okay? So, I've heard the argument that a person is going to portray this man we call Jesus according to their ethnicity. But when you go to Asians' house who are Christians, you don't see an Asian Jesus on the wall. A Jesus with slanty eyes, and most of the time you'll see Asians with dark hair. It's uncommon to see an Asian with blonde hair, natural blonde hair, or natural red hair. Their hair is usually dark, like a dark brown, almost black. So when you go to a Spanish person's house, I've never seen a Spanish Jesus. Now, because of the African coming into consciousness, I have gone to African's house, Black American's house, and I've seen a black Jesus. But mostly with non-Africans who believe in Christianity, you'll see a European Jesus. So we know where this is coming from. So as I progressed through my life from 10, I was always inquisitive, just like any normal child. Questioning. And because I'm a water sign, Pisces, I'm very spiritual anyway. I'm always seeking spiritual knowledge. Always. Up until this day. It never ends. When you think you got it figured out, it changes. And that's the beauty of spirituality. And I feel now, at my age, that is the true nature of the true Almighty Creator. It's created in a way that when you figure one thing out, it morphs into something else to keep you seeking. It's like putting a carrot or apple before the horse. The horse is going to run after the fruit or the vegetable, and it never can get it, but it keeps it moving forward. And that's one of the beauties of this thing we call the Almighty. I'm not talking about this God we believe in or Allah. I'm talking about the one that created all things, that is all things. And, well, I'm not going to get into that. But to me, that's two separate entities, the Almighty and the God that created what you see now. Humans and everything else. But anyway, so there's a lot of questions. I used to know the Bible front to back, cover to cover, can quote chapter and verse. But learning a lot of other stuff, new stuff in, old stuff out. You have to go back and reference as you keep compiling information. You have to go back and reference a lot of old stuff that you know. Okay, so if you start off with Genesis and work your way through to Revelations, you'll come up with a lot of questions. I don't care how devoted you are to Christianity, how devoted you are to Islam. In the Quran, you're going to start questioning. Like anything you do, you question. That makes you a better person. But with Christianity, I found that there's a lot of questions to this day that can't be answered. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, I don't believe in a being that put me here as an sentient being with curiosity, inquisitiveness, and not give me an answer to it. I don't believe that. Okay, I look at the Creator as my parent, and I'm the child. When the child is curious and it has questions, it goes to the parent, and the parent has the opportunity to gain this child's respect. But in the modern times, the parent will say, "You're not ready for that." It's even written in the Bible, Jesus said, "I don't talk about certain things because you're not ready for that." Now here is the parent prejudging the abilities of this child. I have 2 daughters. Although I didn't stay around them while they were growing, while I was with them, I would never tell them that they're not ready. If they're old enough to question, they're old enough to know. If they're old enough to sit down and figure something out and have questions about it, that tells me that they're old enough to know the answer. Because what happens to a child who goes to a parent and the parent knows the answer, but it doesn't give the child the answer? The child is just going to go find another adult, and it's going to keep seeking this answer. And if it finds the answer outside of the parent, then it's going to start gaining respect for that thing that's teaching it. And it's going to lose respect for that parent. Now, this is not every case, but I would go and say in a lot of cases. So never tell your child you're not ready. You're not ready to know the answer. If they're old enough to ask the question, that means they're old enough to know the answer. They figured something out. And you're the one that wants to get their respect. That's a totally separate entity from you. 2 separate people. A lot of people say, this is this modern European thinking. My child is not my friend. I'm your father or I'm your mother. I'm not your friend. What kind of stupidity is that? To say to your child that you're not its friend. You should be that child's mother, that child's friend, that child's enemy in some cases at some times, but have enough respect for one another to what they call kiss and make up, to forgive one another. So never tell your child that I'm not your friend. Because when you tell your child that, it's just going to go out and find a friend. And like I said, they're going to gain more respect for that friend if that friend has the answers than they have respect for you. And to me, I'm not blaming Europeans for what they do. I'm trying to show you that these are war strategies that they're using on you and on their own kind to keep themselves at the top of the food chain. A lot of Europeans are brainwashed themselves into even thinking and behaving this way. And they're brainwashed into thinking this way by the ones that are European that have figured everything out. They figured out the psychology behind this existence. And where did they learn that from? from the first peoples who happened to be African. They just turned around and used our knowledge against us. That's why that gap is there during slavery, where the African American don't know what tribe he comes from, don't know what's going on. They used another war strategy on the so-called native African on the continent of Africa. They used another war strategy. They didn't have to put a gap in between. All they had to do was keep them poor. Whereas the ones who were brought over here as slaves in this North America's continent, the ones who ended up here as slaves during that episode, they had to do to them what they did to them in order to keep themselves in power over the thing that they conquered. It's just a simple war strategy. So back to the religion. I can't get past Genesis. I can't get past page 1. And this has always been the case without starting to ask questions. Now, I've come across in my lifetime a brother who happens to still be in prison. To my knowledge, he's still in prison, Malachi Z. York. So by me reading a lot of his knowledge or his perspective on things opened my eyes a lot. And I thank that brother for starting that organization, the Nuwaubians. No matter how you look at them, he's shined a lot of light on a lot of the questions that I had. And actually I got in touch with him, not personally in touch. I was put on to him or became knowledgeable of him while I was living in Germany. So that brother opened my eyes to a lot of information. And so a lot of the questions that I had about Christianity were answered. But there's still questions that I have about Christianity and Islam. Now, what I really wanted to talk to you about is not the details of Christianity and Islam. What I wanted to talk about is the umbrella of Christianity and Islam. Okay, let me set this stage. Here you have this thing that the Christians believe in as God. Or some of them call him Yah. Or some of them call him Yahweh. Then you have in Islam this being called Allah, who they say their prophet is Muhammad. In Christianity is Jesus, or the Spanish name Jesus. Now, between these two beings, and for me, they're both the same being. Both the same being. Allah is in Islam, and God, Yahweh, Yah, is in Christianity. These two beings have an arch enemy. In Islam, it's called Shaitan, and in Christianity, it's called Satan, or the devil. So these two beings, Yahweh, God, and Allah, are fighting the same arch enemy, Shaitan or Satan. So that tells me that in Christianity, there's a fight, and in Islam, there's a fight. So the question to me is, what are they fighting about? Now, I didn't have to read any books to know that these two beings are fighting, other than the Bible, which belongs to Christianity, and the Quran, which belongs to the Muslims, Islam. So I asked myself, okay, these two beings are fighting. These two beings are fighting the same deity. The devil, Satan, Shaitan. So I asked myself, why are they fighting? Now let's get off of religion for a minute and get into fighting. I wanted to make a separate video about fighting, but I'm going to incorporate it into this. When two things engage in battle, it doesn't matter what two things. It can be microscopic organisms. It could be two giants. It could be two elements, two minerals, two animals, or it could be oneself. When two things engage in a fight, the premise behind fighting, and a lot of you see fighting, but you don't get into what fighting is. You get into the reason why the things are fighting, the two things are fighting, or the three things, or the group of things are fighting. You don't look at the fight itself. You may look at the techniques of fighting. There are many different techniques in fighting. But you don't say, okay, you don't analyze fighting. Fighting, like I said, is simply two things engaged in trying to prove to one another who is the strongest, who is the dominant. That's why you fight. That's why two things fight. One thing is trying to gain control over the other thing. That's all fighting is about. It's very simple. It's no complication. You can make it complicated with techniques and the reason why, and write this book about it. Many books have been written about war or fighting. But the fact remains is that when you wipe all of that ego away, it's one thing trying to get domination over the other thing. One thing trying to prove to the other thing that it's more dominant. Doesn't matter the reason why it does it. It doesn't matter the strategy it uses to do it. One thing is trying to gain domination over the other thing and prove to the other thing that, hey, I'm more stronger than you. I'm going to control you. Okay, so getting back to religion. Now we've clarified what fighting is about. And this is where these religions throw me off. It's not the details in the religion. To me, the Bible and the Quran are just reference books. They're reference books about people who lived before us, what they went through, how they handled it. It doesn't matter if it's the Quran or it doesn't matter if it's the Bible. It doesn't matter if it's what type of religious book. It's about people who lived before me and how or what they went through and how they dealt with it. What happened to them? What the outcome was. It's always past tense. And if you look at Revelations and you say that's future tense, if you believe in the Bible, then it already happened. We in the present, we just haven't experienced it yet. But it has already happened. Okay, so back to Yahweh and Allah, Satan. Now let's get this clear understanding of these deities, these two deities. There's only two. Muslims just happen to call it a different name than the Christians. Okay, there's only two deities. God, Allah, Yahweh, same thing, and Satan. Now, both of these religions believe that God created all things. including Satan. There's nowhere in the Bible or Quran say where Satan just popped up out of nowhere. Satan was created by God. Now I hope we on the same level or on the same page here, because a lot of Christians and Muslims, they will say, well, that's your opinion. I respect. Now how is that my opinion? I made a video about that. Opinion versus observation. So if you're a true Christian or true Muslim, you will know that God created all things according to the Quran and according to the Bible. So God created Satan. Now let's look at God for a moment. God, according to Muslims and according to Christians, is this being that created all things. It's omnipresent, omnipotent, and it knows all things. It sees all things. It hears all things. All things. It knows what you're going to do before you do them. So that means that God or Allah has all the knowledge. God holds and Allah holds all knowledge. So God created what it will. So Satan was one of those things. So getting back to this fight, God and Satan, or Allah and Satan, Yahweh and Satan is having this fight. So what did we say fighting was? One thing trying to gain control over another thing. So my question is, why would God fight Satan? Now some of you will say, well, God is not fighting Satan. God is letting Satan. Remember, it says God let Satan, because Satan said, I'm going to prove to you that I'm more powerful. Right? So God is allowing Satan to prove this. But isn't that still a fight? And moreover, they're using, remember, Satan said, I'm going to take some of your people away from you. They're using humans to prove this point. Think about this. Now, I'm not saying you were created just for this purpose. God is allowing Satan, or Allah is allowing Satan, to be among humans to prove a point. Now, my question about this story is this. And if you can tell me the answer to this, I'd be more than grateful. Because I haven't found anyone on the planet Earth or in spirituality that can give me this answer. And when I do meet the Almighty and the Creator, I'm going to still ask this question. Since God or Allah, Yahweh, Yah, know all things, why is it even going through all of this? What's the purpose behind allowing all of this to transpire, to all this to happen? Now, the only conclusion at this point that I've come up with, well, it's not really a conclusion. The only idea that I've come up with at this point is entertainment. Now you may say, well, Allah has more better things to do. What? If it's all knowing and all present, that means it's doing all things all the time. So what other purpose would it be for it to allow something that it created to go among something else it created and make war with it? People, whether you want to believe this or not, we're in a war. It doesn't even have to be humans on the planet, and it's still warfare. In this dimension, there's warfare. There are many dimensions. If you're into spirituality and you're up on your game, you'll know that there's many dimensions. In this dimension, there's warfare going on. So let me get back to God, Yahweh, Yah, and Allah for a minute. Something that I left out. Here you had this one all-knowing being with potential to become many things. One thing with the potential to become many things. Now, what other reason would this one all-knowing being manifest itself in so many different things when it already know all things? I've given this question some serious deep thought, and the only thing I could come up with is because of boredom. Because if I was sitting around wherever and I was having the power of knowing all things and becoming all things, the only thing I can think of that would make me become multiple things is because I got bored with one thing. Me, myself. I got bored and tired of myself. So I became all things for my pure enjoyment and pleasure to watch me in action, to watch myself in action. No matter what it is I become. So this is why I denounced Christianity, denounced Islam, because these two religions don't have the answers that someone like me, or I'll speak for myself, that I sought after. No, I sat down and I came to the realization by just going within. And that's why I say in my video, or one of my videos, a very, very, to me anyway, profound question that I have for myself right now is, when I make it to that personal paradise that I've created for myself, how long will I be there before I get bored? To me, that's a very scary question. That's a very, very profound, scary question. How long will I sit in my version of paradise until I just got absolutely fed up and tired of it? I have everything. I don't need anything. I don't want for anything. And so I say, oh, I got to do a little chaos to break this monotony, to break this boredom. So back to Christianity and Islam. So God is proving to Satan and Satan is proving to God. Allah is proving to Shaitan and Shaitan is proving to Allah. Who's more powerful? Whose juju, whose kung fu is more powerful? And it even says it that there was a war in heaven. And it involves some angels and, armies, and some of these army soldiers got killed. Some of them got cast here, thrown there. Casted means to throw, or ran off. And now this is the outcome of that. And as far as I can comprehend, it's going to continue. A time of peace and a time of war. A time of peace and a time of war. One big playing field with a net in the middle, and the ball is going back and forth across the net. Now let me show you something that I've been showing a lot of people. And I may have said this in a previous video, but I'm going to say it again because this one is strictly for religion and fighting. If you could walk out the place that you're in right now, cross over the threshold, you're in somewhere right now listening to this video. It could be in your car, it could be in your bathroom, it could be in your kitchen or your bedroom, in the attic, somewhere in the basement, in a bar, in a restaurant, in an Uber taxi. Doesn't matter where you're at. It could be outside. That's in somewhere too. If you could walk across that threshold or close your eyes and open your eyes, and when you opened your eyes, you were in your own version, your own personal paradise, a place that you created, like the movie Leonardo DiCaprio, Inception. You created it. No God, no other being, only you created it. Would there be war there? Would there be famine and hatred and disease and hunger, pain and suffering? Would there be these things? I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer because everyone has a different perception about what hunger is or what pain is. Everyone has a different tolerance. My point is that you would have hopefully everything in that place that you perceive to be right for yourself. Most of you, I think, would be just like me. No fighting, no war, no hunger, no suffering, no pain. Everybody was just living in harmony, happy and joyful. Greetings, helping one another, peace. So if that's what you think, you've just told me, or the people I've actually asked this question, all of them said the same thing I think. Now, if God created this world, that means you have the capability of creating a world that's better than the world God created. The God you believe in. So think about this. Don't just fly off the handle at what I'm saying. This is just food for thought. You can take this video, delete it if you want to, and forget what I said without bashing me or talking bad about me. Don't become Satan just because I'm questioning. Everyone should question everything they do. That's what makes you a better person. By questioning. Even if you get it so-called right, you still question it. How did I come to this answer? What was the journey? How did I derive this solution? How did I come to this solution? Okay, let me write this down so I can pass it on to my children so they don't make the same mistake. See, I've read the book, The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. When I'm walking down the street or I'm walking down a path and I trip over something, I've learned a lesson. Maybe I have to go through it once or twice, but it gets to a point where I learn the lesson and I just don't leave the problem there. I remove the rock. I remove the problem so the people that's coming behind me don't trip. I put up a warning because I'm a part of a whole. I'm part of a big family. Although my biological mother had 10, if we all look at each other, we're all sisters and brothers, no matter what ethnicity. I long to be able to walk out into the jungle and be living harmoniously with all the creatures that live in the jungle. Walk over to a lion, be like, hey, what's up, lion? Without having fear that it's going to eat me. And the lion don't look at me as a threat. But since I'm vibrating on a very low frequency right now, there's fear about things. And that's what causes, I wouldn't say complications, but that's a marker that I still need development. So these religions that are in place and these beings that's supposed to have created these religions, well, not the religion, but created this world, you need to question these things. There's nothing wrong with that. I see so many people, for example, Christians running up into the church, and when you ask them questions, they feel insulted. And I just equate that with they're just angry anyway. They're frustrated and they're angry. It's easy to go into the church and just sit there and listen and give money and follow the rules of the church. That's easy. Or in Islam, that's easy. Pray 5 times a day. You were born into the religion. You pray 5 times a day because your mother prayed 5 times a day. Your father prayed 5 times a day. And I'm not just talking about American Muslims. I know plenty of native African Muslims. I gave my daughters Muslim names, African names, just to break that European control over my children, although they're part European. So when you sit down and you look at things for what it is, and it says you shouldn't change the Bible, but a lot of you do. You shouldn't change the Quran, but a lot of you do. You don't change it on paper, but you change it with your words. Because I'll say something to a Christian, like what I'm saying now, and they'll feel that it's my opinion. It's not my opinion. I'm just quoting out of the Bible. I'm just quoting out of the Quran. So again, I'm hoping this video shines some light on some subjects and open up your mind for you to sit back and question what it is you're really believing in. And that's another thing. Now, if I asked a Muslim or a Christian if they believe in God, Yahweh, Yah, or if they believe in Allah, and they say yes, I stop the conversation because they haven't thought about it hard enough. If they still believe, like Lawrence Fishburne asked Connell Reeves, do you believe that's air you're breathing? Or do you know that it's air you're breathing? Believing and knowing is two different things. Believing means you're not sure about it. you have to have this thing called faith in something that you just believe in. Whereas when you experience it, you smell it, you taste it, you touch it, you see it, and not with your just human eyes, with your spiritual eyes, then you'll know that it exists. And again, don't take other people's word for it. You have to get the answers from within. We've been taught that there's 7 senses. Well, 6 or 5, one of those. Sight. We have sight. We have smell. We have hearing. We have seeing. We have touching. There's only one. There's only one. There's only one sense. And that's feeling. If you don't feel it, it doesn't exist. Now, when I say feel, this is what I mean. In order for you to smell something, the smell has to touch the senses in your nose. In order for you to see something, the image has to touch your eyes, touch the retinas in your eyes, and the eyes send a signal to your brain. And whatever you were taught that thing is, that's the picture that you form in your mind. In order for you to hear something, the sound has to touch your eardrum. In order for you to taste something, that taste has to touch your tongue, your taste buds on your tongue. In order for you to feel something, that thing has to touch your soul. No one can do anything without feeling. You see people drawing these pictures or painting these pictures about places they've never been, or drawing these images that they've never actually seen with their human eyes. But you see everything with your spiritual eyes. It's called the third eye, pituitary gland. So just because your two human eyes don't see it, your soul sees it. Your soul experiences it. And that's what allows artists who use art, the paintbrush, or whatever medium, the carver, the sculptor, the ability to be able to make these images because they've experienced it through feeling. One of the things, that's one of the beauties and gifts that the Almighty has given us. So the Almighty to me is the potential. It's neither good nor bad, it's both. It's neither male nor female, it's both. It's not homosexual, it's all things. And that thing, I don't want to see that thing. I don't want to see all things at one time. Think about this. You see an entity or an energy that's everything you can comprehend and what you can't comprehend at one time. I think that would drive me what is called crazy, insane, if I saw all things, the seen and the unseen, what I've experienced and what I haven't, either physically or spiritually. I see this energy at one time. I don't want to see it. Never. I want to go step by step. Don't pour all of this on me at one time. To feel that, no. Some of you will be trying to be tough guys and say, bring it. Be careful what you ask for. Go up in the mental institutions for the criminally insane or an insane asylum and sit down and talk to some of those people, and you'll see why you shouldn't be wanting that kind of thing to happen to you. But anyway, getting back to religion, any word, remember, remove, repeat, respond, is a reaction. That means it's second. Your creator is first. So that's why I got out of religions. Because I don't want to be second. I want to be first. In a lot of things I want to be first, especially games or fighting. I don't fight to lose. That's why I don't fight. I want to win. I want to do what they call winning. I've been down that road of losing. But the road to winning is losing. So that road of losing gets boring. And there's going to come a time in everyone's existence where they're going to get tired, because that's what happened to the Creator. The Creator got tired of being that one being, that one all-knowing, everything, and became multiple things. Got bored, got tired, wanted change. So for me, that road of losing, I'm at the end of that road. I'm done. No more. So that's why religion now is second for me. So I hope this video has shined some light on that topic, religion. A lot of you still going to go to church, going to go to the mosque, but that's okay too. It's okay. Go there. But I guarantee you, one day, it might not be in this lifetime, but it's going to come a time where you're going to start questioning, and then you're going to say, oh, okay, and you're going to make videos just like this. Or you're going to start thinking, and I'm not the first one to think like this, and I won't be the last one to think like this. The Almighty is all things, all the time. I'm just a clone, a duplicate. I'm a copy. I acknowledge that. I am not the first being. Or I should say, I'm not the second being. I am not the second being. But I'm aware that I'm a copy. So, like I said, I hope this video helps you. I hope you comprehend it and take the next step. And we can all meet in that beautiful place. Peace.